I got yoga blocks. So if you have something like a yoga block, like if you're still using the protein powder gel or whatever it is, it's going to be totally fine. But I might look a little bit less crazy now just to have an actual yoga block or sit on a pillow, do whatever you're usually going to do. We're going to do a lot of deep hip work today and very deliberately focused around the pelvis area. A lot of deep hip work is very grounding, and during the time of year when we have all of this wind and madness, it's important to bring ourselves back down without of that like feeling and this season in the weather and then this season in our country and just not knowing exactly what's going to be going down. And I was having the discussion about impact versus or intention versus impact a lot lately. Like sometimes we're saying like, oh, it's okay if you do something bad if your intention wasn't bad, but like really it's not, because if I don't intend to step on your fingers, but then I step on your fingers, you still have broken fingers, right? Like impact is more important than intention. And I think the big reason that is because if we don't have, like, I can not intend to step on your fingers, or I can intend not to step on your fingers. You know, like I didn't mean to say something awful, or I can deliberately intend to be careful about the things that I say and how they might be interpreted and who might be impacted by the words that come out of my mouth. And then every time I learn that the words that come out of my mouth had an impact that I didn't want, I can set that specific intention not to repeat that behavior. I hope I repeat dumb behavior all the time. I'm working on it because I'm trying to set that continuous intention to know better and do better at all times. Well, like in like our physical practice, we see that come out when we're like, oh, well, I didn't mean to pull my hamstring, but then I still have the pulled hamstring when I was doing all of these deep hammy stretches while I wasn't all warmed up. But if I set the intention, I'm going to be present and aware of what's going on in my body and take my stretches slowly and easy on myself, then I can ensure that I don't have that disastrous impact on my limbs. So we see it come in all areas of our lives that way. We're going to start with alternate nostril breathing because these focused, deliberate breath practices can be very helpful in, again, grounding, kind of bringing us back down in here from the madness that might be happening around us. So you're going to use your right hand, just take your left hand and place it down on your lap. And your right hand, you're going to bring your index finger and your middle finger towards the base of your thumb. And then your thumb's going to go to your right nostril and your ring finger is going to go to your left nostril. And you'll just use the fingers to gently press on the nostrils as we go. So you don't want to like squeeze things or make it really hard to breathe. It's just a general soft movement of air from side to side. Yeah. So we're going to start off having, make sure I can get Judy in. Admit. Okay. So we'll start off just taking a full round of breath, normal, in and out through both nostrils. Just take breath in and a breath out. Now take your thumb and close off your right nostril and then breathe in through your left nostril and switch, close off with the ring finger open with your thumb, breathe out. And then you'll breathe in that way. So breathe in through the right nostril, switch the fingers, breathe out through the left. Inhale through the left. Switch, breathe out through the right. Again, in through the right. Breathe out through the left. In through the left. Breathe out through the right. In through the right. Switch, breathe out through the left. We're going to take another 5 rounds just like this. So you'll breathe in and then switch to breathe out. Stay there and breathe in And switch to breathe out. If you get real sniffly, you might grab a tissue. You can wait till you're done or go for it. It doesn't have to be exactly the perfect amount of reps. If this is making you feel anxious or you feel short of breath while working through this breath pattern, you can always just let it go and just take normal breaths. That's fine too. I've got about 2 more to go, and if your counting's different, that's totally fine. You'll finish off your pattern by exhaling through the left side. Dropping your hands down in your lap. And if you feel like grabbing a tissue would be good, you can go ahead and just make sure you're all cleared out. It does help to purge some of the sniffles, clean us out, get us a little bit more refreshed and open. As you settle into your breath pattern, that will take you through the rest of practice, just a consistent, steady inhale and exhale that we try to return to and bring back in whenever we lose it, because we will. Set an intention for your practice. Be deliberate and kind to yourself in saying that this is a thing that I want to focus on for the rest of this time on my mat today. And then the next time you take a big breath in, we'll exhale through the mouth, just sigh it out. And again, like that. For 3 ohms. And start to open your eyes if they've been closed. If you're seated on anything, go ahead and remove it, set it off to the side. We'll use that stuff a little later. You're gonna take your feet towards each other. Make sure they're a good distance away from your hips so you have enough room in your body to start taking a little roll around on your hips. And if it feels good, you can let your spine roll around and kind of curve with it or keep the spine straight. After you move in a couple of rounds, still breathing, even though you're doing weird things, start moving in the other direction. After you feel like you've moved a reasonable amount of times in both directions, you'll come back to center. If you want to bring your feet in a little bit closer or not, you'll find a good place for you to lift up in this bound angle pose, feet together, knees open, heart lifts. And then with a mostly straight spine, thinking of long and extended, you're going to lean your heart towards your feet. You might press your elbows on the insides of your thighs a little bit if that feels good to you. And keep thinking soft, relaxed thoughts in the lower back or upper pelvic space back there, like around your kidneys. Just stay for 2 more long, steady breaths. And then start to lift yourself up. You're going to take both of your legs, you're just going to swing them over to the right side. Go ahead and keep them tucked in fairly close. You're just going to move your right hand over towards your left knee. Try to keep your left hand in nice and close. We're just going to take a little twist. So my legs are in pretty close to my calf. The right leg is rested in the inside of the left foot. Breathing in, breathing out. Inhale, come back to the center. Just take an exhale to twist over towards the other side because it's real awkward. And then come back to the center, and you're going to open your legs up more so you have that pinwheel shape, that squared off space. And then you're going to walk yourself back towards the left side. You might come down onto your left forearm. Try to leave the knee down and let the hip lift up if anything. If you want to go back on both forearms, you are welcome to do that. Just go anywhere that is easy on your body for you to feel a stretch in the front of your thigh and allow your breath to move easily. And that might mean that you come off of your forearm and you just come back up here and feel that hip lifting up and the front of the thigh stretching out. Stay here for about 2 more breaths. And take your right hand, cross it over, so both hands to the left, walk yourself up, and then you might scooch your right leg back a little bit more and start to come forward towards your left shin. If you think of just that middle of the leg space, that's probably going to be okay. If it's too much, just bring yourself a little bit closer to your thigh. Notice how it feels once you get into this place that you're going towards. You are achieving your goal of relaxing the hips, or if instead you are achieving any kind of worry or not so good feelings in these legs. Take about 2 more breaths. Start to walk yourself back up. You're going to take the legs in, bringing the soles of the feet towards each other. A little rock side to side here. I'm just being inquisitive about what changes in the body over those couple of shapes. Just lift your spine up and lean it forward. See if you feel anything different around the legs. Give yourself an exhale. Take yourself up. And then we'll swing the legs over towards the left side, so you'll tuck them in pretty close to start off with. It's an inexact sort of place, but just kind of folding like your mermaid tail over to the side of you. And then left hand to the right knee, right-handed, nice and close, so you're mostly lifted up and soft in the belly as you twist over towards the right side, letting that belly fall in. One more full round of breath. Inhale, come back to the center. Just take an exhale to twist over to the other side so you're not wound up all funny. And then come back to the center. We'll start to open the legs more, finding more of that pinwheel squared off shape. Notice my foot is not right next to my hip. I'm giving my knee some space. And then taking the hands over, maybe I come a little bit over to the side and feel this thigh stretching. Maybe I come down to a forearm, maybe both forearms. Maybe I'm already feeling today like flattening myself down on the back would feel great. Try to let the knee be down and the hip roll up if anything comes up. And one more round of breath. And taking your left hand and crossing it over, give yourself a little walk back upwards. Then you might take this leg and scooch it back a little bit. I feel like that gives me more space in my hip, and if you notice it works out differently for you, go ahead and tuck that leg back in. We're going to start coming forward towards the shin. Ooh. And my left hamstring, this is my left leg, my left hamstring is so much looser than my right hamstring, but my right leg turns out more easily, so this feels a lot tighter on my left side. It's just funny to notice that. I always go slower with right hamstring stretches. another full round of breath. And start to walk your hands back up towards you. You're gonna take the legs in, bring the soles of your feet in, rock around a little bit until you feel your sits bones. And one more time, lean the heart forward towards the feet. See if you feel any more balanced or if you still feel just in a very human way, very imbalanced in the hips. And then lift yourself up. You're gonna take the right leg out to the right. You might bring your left foot in a little bit closer to kind of square off, or you can keep yourself a little bit more open. You're gonna lift your toes, maybe you lift your knee. Start bringing your heart towards your knee, your belly towards your thighs, so you can even move both limbs or body parts to get that a little bit closer. Do keep your toes up to try to warm up and engage these hammies, lengthening them, preparing for the rest of practice. Big breath in. Big breath out. And start walking your hands back. Just going to switch legs, holding one in, extending the other out. Let the toes face up. Knee will bend as much as it feels good to you. Turn the body towards the leg and try to get the belly and the thigh closer together. They don't have to touch, just more closeness of those spaces. One more rounded breath. And start to bring your hands back in. I'm going to come up onto our hands and knees. You're going to roll the legs around. Come here onto your table pose. Take a couple of cat and cow or side to side movements. Just let this be your own sort of space to wiggle out. Notice if you should have any support underneath your knees, making sure that you're giving yourself everything that you need to keep your body safe and healthy. And then once you feel like you've wiggled all of that out, and you'll start to move towards a more neutral spine, we're just going to take the right leg out to the right side. You might be on fingertips. You're just going to move your toes up and down. Just kind of rolling that leg around in the hip socket. After you do it just a few times, if you like your toes up rather than down, you can have your toes up. I like them down. I'm just going to come down onto my hands so I can soften my heart down. Just a brief visit. Find something to relax as you exhale. And then draw yourself back up. Draw the right leg in and take the left leg out to your left side. And you'll start moving your toes up and down. You can see how my hips kind of tilt and shift a little bit as I do this. You might feel the same. You've got a big leg bone moving around in the hip socket. And then you can pick toes up or toes down, just decide what really works for you, and then start softening your heart down so that your tailbone can float up a little bit more and the hamstring sensation increases. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then lift that heart back up. Tuck your right or left knee in, and then you're going to grab your object, whatever it is, your block, your jar or big book or something, and then you'll take your right foot forward outside of your right hand. That thing's a little bit wide. And then push down in your front foot so you pull your right thigh back a little bit. Leave your left hand down on that block. Open your right arm. If the lifting of your arm doesn't help your twist, what you might do is place your right hand on your right thigh and kind of pull it back. Make sure that the knee is not falling out, still facing forward, just that gentle tug. Or you can just use your felt sense, like think, okay, hip, pull back, and it goes, okay. Breathe in. Breathe out. Take both hands down. I'm still on the inside of the leg because it's going to give me a little bit more space in my hips. Give a little wiggle of your foot forward. And then start to straight-ish the leg. Take it nice and slow. You might adjust your object onto a taller setting. Slowly the leg becomes straighter. It does not have to be completely straight. Even if it's like here, if it's pretty bent, what you'll do once you get as far as you're gonna go is start to reach that right hip back, just like you did in that lunge we were just in. Ooh. This is my right one, my tight one. Good. One more exhale. And then start to come out of it. I like to lean forward, draw the feet back, and then you'll take your left foot forward outside of your left hand, bring your hands up onto whatever it is that you are lifting yourself up with, giving yourself longer arms. And then start to take your left arm up in the air or your left hand to your hip if that was more helpful to you than having your arm flying up. Just make sure you're not sitting down in this right arm. Just don't want to lift the heart up and away. So the left hip is gently pulling back even though the knee faces forward. Every time you exhale, soften your belly and see if you can twist a little bit more. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then the hands come down. You start to move that left foot a little bit further forward. It'll give you a little bit more space to make the legs straight-ish or straight. Make sure you have an intention of being slow and careful with your body so that you're really there the whole time. Feeling what it's like to allow the hamstring to release rather than just kind of muscling it or torturing yourself into a straight leg. Big inhale, big exhale. And start to bend forward a little bit so you can pull yourself back. Take your object out of the way, maybe after you bring your leg back, and then widen your knees. Sit back in a child's pose. If you'd rather be flat on your belly than in child's pose, then go ahead and rest there because that's where we'll go next. And some of us might feel it kind of nice to lengthen the outsides of the shoulders this way, kind of itsy bitsy spidering those fingertips a little bit further forward. Another full breath in. Find something to soften and release as you exhale. And then start to draw yourself up. We're going to come all the way down to laying on the belly. When you get there, wiggle the legs back. Take your arms back behind you. Hold hands with yourself and lift your heart up and forward as you pull the knuckles back, finding Shalabhasana. Legs lifting up is optional, but make sure that your legs are long, whatever they're doing, up or down. Take one more inhale and see if you can get your heart a little bit further forward. And then soften everything down. Release your hands. Make yourself a pillow for your head and wiggle your pelvis around a little bit. You might even wiggle your legs back a little bit further just to make sure that there's lots of room in the front of your pelvis. Feel the pelvis pressing down. And then you'll press the tops of your feet down. As I press my pelvic bone down towards the floor, I can feel a little bit of lift in my abs. Take your time with that. See if that resonates with you. If there's anything else that you do that helps you feel more lifted in the abs, you can make a little adjustment, but try to press the pelvic bone down. Already your abs might be feeling a little bit strong. So we're going to go using that, coming into cobra pose, hands back by the low ribs, pelvic bone pressing down, and then heart lifting up. Now open your collarbones. You might feel a little bit stronger and more open, or this is just weird to you. One more inhale. Exhale, soften. And then curl those toes. We're going to press back to downward facing dog. Eventually we will come to standing. So if you need to go there, go for it. In downward dog, see if you can feel your heels resting down, your hips floating up, your inner thighs zipping up. Outer shoulders pressing down into the hands. If you're still here, give me one more sigh, exhale. And And then we'll start to work towards a fold, feet to hands, hands to feet, and take it nice and easy coming up. Walk your hands up the body if that is helpful to you. And then you're going to take your object, your block, whatever it is that you have. We're going to take it down in between our legs, bring it onto one of its more low settings so you can have your hands down. If you need to take it onto a taller setting and have your spine flat, do that. But if you can have it on a slightly lower setting, so it's about like your hands are on the ground, maybe on fingertips, try to send your heart forward and your tailbone back. So we're going to keep the spine more or less parallel with the floor, leaving your left hand down. Take your right hand to the small of your back, so it's on that flat part. And then leaving the flat part, the pelvis, the lower body steady. From the belly button up, try turning your heart over towards the right. Lift up and out of your left shoulder. If that feels good to you, you might take your hand to your shoulder to open up more. You might take your hand up. And I want to roll from the heart and the belly button, not at the hips. My hips have stayed fairly stable. Take a big inhale, reach those fingertips up if they're up. Exhale, see if you twist a little bit more. And then take your hand down and we'll move towards the other side. So leave the right hand down, take the left hand to the small of your back, feeling how flat it is. And then from that flat space, rolling from the belly and the heart up to send that right collarbone more open. Lift out of your left collarbone. Maybe the hand is up, maybe just to take it here and kind of guide that shoulder to open more. Big breath in, reaching, opening through the heart, exhaling, softening the belly, and then taking both hands down. Relax into this fold a little bit if you've been working really hard to keep yourself long. And then start to lift yourself up. Maybe you take the item with you. Maybe you grab it once you get up here. All of it is good. We're going to take the right toes all the way out to the right. Turn the left toes in. And then take your item into, if it's light, leave it in your hand. If it's heavy, just put it down on the floor on the inside of your foot and meet us back up here. So if it's light, you're going to feel yourself reaching your hands out. Yeah? So I can feel myself pushing whatever it is a little bit further away, getting open through this chest. Other than if you're not holding something you imagine you are. And then you're going to push your hips back towards your left foot as you press whatever it is out away from your hips, and then set them down on the inside of your right foot. And as we come into triangle pose, I'm going to soften these low ribs in, but open the collarbones up. Maybe the right thigh bone starts rolling back and I get a little bit more intense in those hamstrings. Big breath in, big breath out. You're going to take this with you or leave it down, it's up to you. Coming back up. And then you're going to take your left foot. Right now your legs are kind of in a tightrope. You're going to move your left foot forward so you can turn your hips over towards the right side. And you're going to move your block into the other hand. You're going to start taking it down to the ground. You might bend this leg. That's okay. Try to have a straighter leg. Take your right hand to your right hip. And roll that right hip back. Soften your belly because you're already twisting here, and then send your heart forward. You might start to roll into revolve triangle, taking your left collarbone and opening it, or I'm sorry, your right collarbone and opening it up. So the same front leg, that shoulder is going to roll up. Maybe you take your hand to your shoulder. Maybe you take your hand up. One more exhale. Then your hand comes back to your hip. You're going to take yourself up. You might take that item with you. And then bring your legs back. We're going to take them in. A lot of that wide-legged, twisting sort of space can get kind of hard on the knees. So just give yourself a little like wiggle, shake it out. Whew, I feel things here. So let's move towards the other side. Make sure that when we go from triangle and start working our way towards revolve triangle, you want to go from having like warrior 2 alignment to having more like warrior 1 alignment. So I have that change there. Yeah. So start off having legs nice and wide, left toes all the way over, right toes in slightly. And then you're going to slide your hips back towards the right side as you reach out through the left side, feeling that open space across your chest. The item comes down. If that's too low, take your hands up to your shin, because you can always use this in the neck space, yeah? You're gonna reach the heart out into the hands. And then what often happens is the tailbone kind of floats back there, yeah? So instead, you're gonna reach your tailbone that way and take your left hip and pull it back towards the right foot. One more breath in. Big breath out. Maybe you take this with you, maybe you leave it there because you're going to come back down to it. And now we're going to make that adjustment in the feet. So we go from the tightrope to train tracks. Just kind of hop it over and do what you got to do. So I'm trying to square my hips this way. It's an inexact science, but that's where I'm moving. It's okay to have a bend in the leg, but try to keep it a little bit longer if you can, at least along feeling. You're going to take the block into your right hand, bring it down. So my hand and my foot are about shoulder width apart, kind of like when you replace the hand in a lunge by bringing the foot forward. And you might even take the hand out of the small of the back so you can square up those hips. And start rolling your left collarbone open, your left shoulder open, and soften your ribs in, your belly in, so you can twist. You can revolve this triangle. It might stay here. You might need to stay here in order to feel balanced, in order to feel like you're not overwhelming the hamstrings or your orientation in space or your breath. Maybe you lift the arm up. Notice almost nothing changed in my body. That really didn't do a lot for me. It's just an extra limb kind of added in there. One more inhale, one more exhale, and then take the hands back. I'm going to lift myself up out of this space, bring my legs back together. And then whatever you've got here, you're going to go ahead and set it off to the side. Bring your feet in fairly close. I like to be at least a couple of inches apart for a chair pose. The only thing is that if you go into chair pose and your feet are apart and your knees are knocking in weird places, then you're going to want to just cue yourself to have the toes together to do that. So I've got a couple of inches. I'm going to sit back into chair, reaching my arms up and forward. Releasing the hips back. Letting everything unfold and open up back there. Take another breath in. Hips relax down, exhale. Stand on up. And rest your hands back down at your heart. We're going to come down into chair pose again, trying to be just on left toe tips. So this is going to be our balance. And it's going to be kind of weird in the knees. So you might not get very deep into your chair, like you might only be here, just trying to keep less weight on the toes. If you can get really deep, make sure that your knees aren't going forward. Okay? This is not a long visit. Go ahead and just come up onto your left toes. Sit your hips back. Reach your arms forward. Now make sure your right hip isn't going out to the right, that it's pulling back. And then stand up, take your feet down. It's really hard in the outer butt. It's just a short visit. Don't overdo it. Just coming up onto your right toes. Bend into the left leg. So my hips are going back. I don't have to go down and deep. Inhale. Reach that left hip back. Exhale. Stand up. Set the feet down. Wiggle things out a little bit. We fired up the outer butt to lift us up into a really big twist. We're going to do a standing balance and a twist. You can have a hand that's over by the wall just to make sure that you can do it. If you are going to use the wall, I would recommend lifting up the leg that's closer to the wall so that you can twist towards the wall. Maybe use your hands like so. What you can also do is take your block, your item, and instead of having to lift your leg up into the air, you just put it up in front of you. You're going to fire up your standing glute. Whatever leg you've got lifted is fine. We'll go with the opposition. So I've got my lifted leg. I'm going to drive down into my standing leg. The standing leg, that arm goes forward. The lifted leg, That arm goes back. I'm gonna lift up as I breathe in. Exhale, soften the belly. Feel this twisting as I breathe out. One more round of breath. Big exhale. And then soften the twist, come out of it. Take your foot down, wiggle, bounce it out. And then coming to the other side. I want to make sure I've got this at least a foot or so in front of me so I can just take the toes and rest them. And I can't put my weight into whatever this is because it's probably not very sturdy. I have to stand on that foot. Maybe you lift the toes up and feel pretty good about that. Don't lift this hip up. Lift those inner thighs. Standing leg arm goes forward, lifted leg arm goes back. And you might have turned yourself around so you can face towards the wall while you do this. Maybe you've got another inhale, soften something, maybe twist deeper as you exhale. And then release it, set the foot down. Wiggle things out, just because it feels nice. And then if you've got this in your space, so go ahead and move it out. You're gonna take the feet about hip width distance apart, maybe even thinking a little bit wider than that. Inhale, lift up. We're gonna come down into a forward fold. So bend into your knees, take your hands down somewhere that feels good to you. It could be hands onto your shins. Relax your belly closer to your thighs, letting this deep fold happen in your hips. One more breath in. Big breath out. And then start to take your hands down, bend your knees, bring yourself down onto the floor, widen your knees, sit back in a child's pose. Again, belly being nestled in with the thighs. You could be more in puppy dog pose or lay down on your belly if you need to have no more bend in the knees right now. From child's pose or from puppy dog pose, I'm going to take your left hand over towards the right hand and get a little bit more side stretch there. You can do it on your belly too. It's a little bit more awkward, sometimes laying on your side. You can reach that arm over to get a big stretch. Exhaling and then taking the left hand over to the left and the right hand over to the right, or the right hand over to the left. Words are hard. Side stretch, right side. One more round of breath. And coming up, I'm gonna lift up, sit down, take those legs out, nice and wide. And then take your body forward. You might have your hands on your shins or hands back behind your shins to lean the heart forward. Try to lift your toes up. So these inner thighs are getting more open space. Maybe your hands walk forward. Find a place you can breathe. One more round of breath. Soften as you exhale. And then walk it back in. Then take your left leg and fold it in so you're going towards your right leg. We're going to take a little twist. You're going to twist towards that left leg. Breathe in. Breathe out. Come out of the twist. Leave your left hand on your left leg. Your right hand comes behind you. Just press that thigh out a little bit. Stay there as you exhale. And relax it. You're going to take this knee to face up now, crossing over your leg. Bring your left hand in behind you, hug onto this thigh, soften your belly as you twist over towards the thigh. You might not have the leg cross, you might stay here. One more breath in, big breath out. And then relax that twist and do one of two things. One is going to just be take the leg on the inside and let the knee fall open, and you're going to fold forward this way. If you're feeling a little bit more open in the hips and the hamstring, I'll show from this side, you're going to take that foot, cross it over so my knees are together on the pinky toe edge of my foot. And for most of us, just holding on to this knee And leaning the heart forward is going to be a lot because there's a big outer hip opening on this side and it's getting deep into that bottom hamstring. So this could be a lot. Maybe you do want to come forward, just knowing that you'll want to move slowly so that we don't have anything get too intense in those spaces. And if this is no good on your knee or your hip, whatever it is, you come back here. Maybe you even bring the leg in closer towards your belly. Let's go for another 2 beautiful, steady, deep breaths, just being wherever it is that you are in this shape, whatever variation of the shape you've chosen, relaxing into your exhale, and then lifting up, unwinding your legs, and taking them back open, and then bringing your right leg in, and then we'll twist over towards the bent leg. Stay there, exhale, and then twist open, pressing gently down on the inner thigh, just moving the meat down, not trying to torque your knee. Exhale, and then softening that twist. We're going to take this into more of an outer thigh twist so the foot stays on the inside, the knee is up, or the foot crosses over. Hug onto that knee wherever it is. Right arm in for support. Inhale, lift, exhale, rotate around that center. That soft, squishy midsection. The organs are soft and squishy. That's what we're going for here. Inhale. Exhale. Start to relax your twist. We're going to come into either the foot on the inside folding forward or the foot with the pinky toe edge on the outside, and I've got my knees much closer together. I hug here or stay here or fold in. Find a place slowly, inquisitive about where a good place for you to fold is. In any fold, always thinking of this expansive, relaxed lower back. Big breath in. Big breath out. Starting to lift yourself back up. You're going to unwind this leg, take the legs out nice and wide, and have hands behind you, lifting you up, staying here. Maybe the hands come in front. Maybe you walk yourself down and lay down on the floor. You can always grab a block or a pillow and put it under your head if it's that low, or take your hands down onto it. Find a way to support yourself. Thinking of that wide, squishy lower back space. Soften as you exhale. And start to lift yourself back up. We'll take the legs, draw them in. We're going to start to come down onto our backs. Bringing yourself down there, knees into your chest. Just give yourself some space to relax into the floor. And then stay holding on to your right leg as you let your left leg slide out. So it might go open a little bit and start to work your leg a little bit straighter. Sometimes holding on to the back of the thigh is a little bit easier with that bottom leg a little bit straighter. Make your bottom leg active. Feel the sole of your foot pushing out. Even if it's here, feel the sole of that foot pushing out. So we're lengthening the front of the left thigh. And then let your right leg, instead of trying to squeeze it tight into your chest, let it relax. Maybe by pushing that left foot out, you do find that right thigh getting a little bit closer to you. And if you don't, that's also fine. Maybe it just feels a little bit softer coming towards you. Big inhale, big exhale. And draw the left foot back in. Set the right foot down. Move to holding onto the left leg. Maybe it's the shin or the back of your thigh that you're holding. And you'll slide the right leg forward as far as it is comfortable and reasonably willing to go. You feel the sole of the foot pressing forward, so we're actively lengthening the front of the right hip. And from that active lengthening of the front of the right hip, that action on the right side, maybe the left side softens. Jezebel. Sweetheart, it's just a neighbor. You like neighbors? I know. Thank you. One more breath in. Deep breath out. And then relaxing your right leg in. Setting your left leg down. And bring your heels in nice and close by your hips. And so if you're setting up for bridge pose, go ahead and give a wiggle of your shoulders into your back. Press your feet down, lift your hips up a little bit in bridge pose. So it doesn't have to be quite a lot, maybe like halfway to whatever you think you could be doing right now. Just engage those inner thighs up into your hips. Feel the feet pressing down, reaching those knees forward. So we're opening up the front of the hips. There's a little bit more of that action space. And then relax your hips down. Just taking a brief moment to remind the body of those different actions that we do to help lift up and support a deeper bridge pose. And then we're going to go all the way up into that deeper bridge pose. So today, as big as you're able to take it, that's where we're going. Maybe not the biggest one ever, but now having a little bit more open bridge pose, pushing the feet down, lifting the inner thighs to your pelvis, reaching knees forward, letting the heart float up. One more breath in. And then relax the shoulders, slowly release the hips down onto the mat. And bringing your knees into your chest, giving yourself a hug. A little rock side to side. Relax your feet down. Take your right leg up into the air. Make some circles with your right foot in one direction and then in the other direction. And flex the foot, drawing the toes back towards you. Put the right ankle on your left knee. Left arm or right arm goes in between. Hold the left leg.
Season 2 soundtrack by Selena Gomez from Spotify.
Alexa, stop. I don't know what that even was. Oh, feel the hips getting heavier. All of that hip tissue getting softer. Inhaling, exhaling, and then release the left foot down, release the right foot down, and extend your left leg up in the air. Make some circles with your toes, working the ankle bones around, and circle in the other direction. Flexing the foot, toes towards you, keeping the foot flexed with the left ankle on the right knee, left arm in between. Hold that right leg, or don't. It's not, you can stay down there with that right foot on the floor. If that was a good amount of hip stretch for you, just stay there relaxing and breathing into it. Wherever you are, trying to relax and breathe into it. One more round of breath. Releasing your right foot down and your left foot down. Opening your arms to a T. And taking the knees over to the right, tucking them in as close to your body as you like. Press a little bit in the back of the right arm to release the left collarbone. Relax both arms, soften the belly, start to settle your body and settle your breath. Take another inhale, soften something as you exhale. And after that, bringing the knees up and letting those legs roll over towards the left side, tucking them in as much as feels good to you, which could be a little bit or not at all. A little pressure in the back of the left arm to relax the right shoulder, then relax both arms, both shoulders. As we wrap up this practice, releasing some of the intensive control over the breath, just letting things become a little bit more natural and restful. One more breath in, softening as you breathe out. And then coming out of the twist, back to the center, resting your hips in the middle, feet a bit wider than hips, knees against each other, and draw those arms down by your sides and take a little snuggle of the shoulder blades together under the heart. Just a little bit to allow the heart to be a bit more expansive, nothing wild, nothing feeling tight or pinching. As you settle into your body here, if there's anything else that's calling to you at the end of practice, any other shapes or movements that would feel good, go there. If you are feeling ready for Shavasana, you will remain in this constructive rest or start to extend the legs. You can always, of course, take a seated meditation. Maybe that's sitting up in a chair. Find a place that is easy, soft, restful for your body. And enjoy this time. Start to come back to your breath, back to your body. Maybe even recalling the intention that you set at the beginning of practice. And if it could be applicable to the rest of your day or the next couple of days, maybe trying to keep that intention in mind. Maybe there's something else that will stick out more to you about the rest of these few days until we meet again, something that we can be intentional about to have a good impact for ourselves and for others. And start to move yourself over to one side, drawing inwards. A moment of gratitude, reflection for practice. And then coming up to find your own version of a comfortable seat. So any way you like. Bringing your hands up to your heart. And we seal practice, releasing an Om together. Big breath in. Bowing down to the love and light within each of our hearts. Namaste.
Oh, thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. And Carlos is so happy to meet Jezebel.
She started barking too, and she started barking.
Thank you. He was so connected. Sure. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Melinda.
Good to see you.
Bye. Have good days, everybody. Take care.